Hi everyone, this is Chandra Sekhar, working as a assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Last session we discussed about interfaces, how you can define an interface, implementing an interface, extending an interface, some example programs using an interface, and the new features that are added in an interface. Now today we are going to discuss one object-oriented concept called as inheritance, whereas various object-oriented programming concepts, we can say that's OOPS concepts, like an abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, classes, objects, sage passing, dynamic binding. Now in that, today we will going to see about what actually the inheritance. So various list of contents going to discuss today session is what is actually the inheritance, what are the different types of inheritances, how you will derive the subclasses, what actually the subclass, then types of inheritance, what is multiple inheritance, what are the various member access rules, and what is final class, and as well as the final methods. So these are the list of the contents today we are going to discuss: inheritance, deriving the subclasses, types of inheritance, multiple inheritance, various member access rules, final classes, and as well as the methods. So before going to in depth about the inheritance, you have to know about what actually the inheritance. So methods will allow the software developer to reuse the sequence of statements. So you can use code reusability, one of the fundamental feature of an inheritance. When you are using that, code reusability will play a vital role. So methods can allow a software developer to reuse a sequence of statements. Okay, so inheritance, whereas it allows a software developer to reuse the classes by deriving a new class from an existing one. What is the meaning of an existing one? In an existing one class, we can call as parent class. Existing class we can call as base class. Existing class we can call as super class. So by creating or by deriving new class from an existing class, here what is actually the new class? So your inheritance will allows a software developer to reuse the classes, reusing the classes by deriving new classes. How can you derive a new class? From the existing one? When you are deriving a new class, it's called as an inheritance. So what an existing class called as? Like we discussed, say existing called as parent class, existing class called as super class, existing class called as base class. Anyone, either maybe a super class, or maybe a base class, or maybe a super class, or maybe a parent class. So the existing class is called as parent class, super class, or base class. The class which is derived, what meaning of you are created a new class. What is that called? Class called as child class, subclass, or derived class. So the new class which are going to create it with an existing class, the new class is called what? Child class, subclass, or derived class. So as the name implies that the child will inheritance. So the child class will inherit all the characteristics of the parent. What is the meaning of the characteristics of the parent class? Members of the particular parent class. So a child class can inherit all the characteristics of parent class. But how the child class can inherit the properties or characteristics of the parent class? So that is meaning is the child class can inherit the methods, data that are defined inside the parent class. What properties you can inherit? Of your parent class? You can inherit the properties of the parent class. What? Methods, as well as the data that you are going to define in the parent class. So here two classes will play major role. When you are dealing with an inheritance, you have to remember there are two classes. So whenever you are creating a new class with an existing class, the existing class is called as parent class, superclass, or base class. So the new class which you are created by help of existing class, that called class as child class, subclass, or derived class. Meaning that the child class inherits all the characteristics of the parent. So that is, the child class can inherit the properties, characteristics. What characteristics? Methods, because your parent class contains methods. Maybe your parent class contains variables. Whatever you are defined in the parent class, your child class can inherit all the methods as well as all the data that you are defined in the parent class. Now see, so inheritance relationship are often shown graphically. I will show you in a class diagram with an arrow pointing to the parent class. Now see a small class diagram. See a small class diagram. This is a class diagram. It contains three compartments. The first compartment is name of the class. It is the name of the class. The second compartment deals, we can say the second compartment is variables of the particular class. And the third compartment, say, that is a methods of the parent class. So what is my parent class name here is animal. What is the parent class name is animal. What is int? The type of the data type, and weight is a variable. Weight is a variable. So the class diagram have three compartments. The first compartment is name of the class. Here in our example, name of the parent class is animal. The second compartment deals with variables. The second compartment deals with variables of particular parent class. And the third compartment has methods. The third compartment has methods. Again, the type of int. What is the name of the method? GetWeight is the name of the method. Now see, my arrow is pointing to my parent class. So with an existing class, with that animal class, I have created a child class called bird. So child class have its own property. What are that? Fly. It does not have any variables. Again, three compartments. First compartment, name of the class. Second compartment, variables. In our example, it is not there. Third compartment, methods. So inheritance nothing but creating a new class by an existing class, or inheriting the properties from the parent class to the child class. And also the child class contains which own properties. Properties here nothing but what? Which own variables, which own methods, or which own methods, which own data. Here in our example, the bird class does not contains any variables in our example, and it contains one method called fly, and it does not return any value. That's the reason why that is void. So inheritance should create is a relationship, meaning that a child is more specific version of the parent class. So when you are following an inheritance, you have to follow is a relationship. Is a relationship. Now see, animal is a bird. No. Bird is a animal. So bird is a animal. So there will be is a kind of relationship when you are dealing with inheritance. When you are dealing with inheritance, there will be is a kind of relationship between child and between parent class. Okay, now we'll go deeper. But how can you create a child class? We're discussing from last two slides. Parent class, child class. You had created a new class called as a child class with an existing class called as a parent class. But how? So there will be one syntax for creating or deriving a subclasses. Here in Java, when you are creating a new class with an using of an existing class, so there is a keyword called, or there is a reserved word called extends. So extends is a keyword used to establish inheritance relationship. So I want to establish a parent and child relationship between the two classes. So the key vital role played by a keyword called extends, a reserved word called extends. Now see an example, class, name of the class. In our example, animal. I written a class called animal. I written contents, like in our example, weight. I have one method called int get weight, that is a public method. I have closed the animal class. So first of all, I am declaring a parent class. It contains members. Who are the members of the particular animal class? This is a variable. This is a method. This is a variable and this one will be a method. Now, with an existing class, what is an existing class? In our example, this is a parent class. With that existing example, I am going to create new class called as child class. So what is the syntax? See here, class, bird, extends is a keyword used to extend the properties from the parent to the child, animal. So extends before name of the child, extends after name of the parent. So when you use the keyword extends, so it will inherit the properties, members, contents of an animal class, weight as well as get weight into bird class. And bird class contains its own method like flight. With an example, public void flight. So here the syntax is important. How can you extend? How can you create a child class? So by using extends keyword, you can establish inheritance relationship between parent and bird is child class. So if you want to establish is a kind of relationship there between the two classes, here you can use a keyword called extends. Now, why we need inheritance? Why we'll use inheritance in Java? For method overriding, so you can achieve runtime polymorphism. Other one is a reason where you can use inheritance. For code reusability, so the software engineers can reuse your code by deriving the new class by using the existing class. Because already existing class is there. With that existing class, you are creating new classes. So code reusability. These are the two purposes why you can use the inheritance in Java. So what are the various terms used in inheritance? So the first term is class. So what actually the class? It contains group of objects which have a common properties. Class is a template or a blueprint from which objects will be created. So here I am discussing what are the various terminologies that are going to use in an inheritance concept. So what one is class? So there is a class called subclass or a child class. So a class which inherit from other class. Like other class is what? Parent class. The child class or a subclass also called as derived class or extended class or child class. So terminology we are used here in inheritance is subclass. So another terminology, superclass or parent class. So superclass is a class from where a subclass will inherit all the features. So here the superclass, in our previous example, animal is a superclass, bird is a subclass. So the superclass is a class from where the subclass will inherit all the features, and it is also called as base class, is also called as parent class, it is also called as superclass. So the terminology, first we are using a terminology called class, then subclass or a child class from which you can inherit the other class. It is also called as a derived class, it is also called as an extended class, or it is also called as child class. Then now one more terminology, a term used in inheritance is what? Superclass or parent class. So superclass is a class from where subclass inherits all the features. So it is also called as base class or it is also called as parent class. One more, reusability. Reusability. So as the name implies that it is a mechanism which facilitates you have to reuse the fields and methods of the existing class. Existing class nothing but parent class when you create a new class. You can use the same fields, same methods that are already declared, that are already defined in the previous class. So you have to reuse the methods or fields that are declared in the existing class, where you can create a new class. When you are creating a new class is nothing but what? You are creating a child class, and you can use the same fields and the methods that are already defined in the previous class. So the terms used in an inheritance are what? One is class, subclass or a child class, that is called as a new class, parent class or a super class from where you can create, or subclass can inherit all the properties of your properties, nothing but what? Contains members of your class, nothing but fields and methods. This superclass is also called as base class or parent class. And one more important pointer is code reusability. You can reuse all the methods, fields that are already defined in the existing class when you are creating a new class. So these are the terminologies where you will use in a inheritance. Now, there are different types of inheritances. We will see what are the different types of inheritance. Then example. So on the basis of Java, there are generally 3 types, but here declared about the 5 types of inheritances in Java: single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance, where Java does not support directly the multiple inheritance. To overcome this, we will use interface concept, and hybrid inheritance with the combination of remaining 4. So the diagram you can see. So multiple and hybrid inheritances is supported through interfaces only. Now see the diagram here. First is single inheritance. There will be only one class. That class A in our example is called as parent class, and class B is called as child class. So if there will be only one class parent and one class child, then you can use a inheritance concept called single inheritance. Single inheritance. So another inheritance. What is another inheritance? Second type of inheritance is what? Multi-level. Multi-level, more than one level inheritance is called as multi-level inheritance. See here. First you see half of the diagram. Class B, class A. So A is a parent, B is a child. And I have one more class called C. C is a child, B is a parent. So B is acting as a dual role here. So one child and parent. So B is a child for A, C is child for B. So multi-level inheritance. So hierarchical inheritance. There will be only one single parent class, more than one child class. If an example, if you see, class A is a parent class, class A is a parent class, class B and class C are child classes. Hierarchical inheritance. So like a tree structure. So parent class, then one parent class, more than one number of child classes. So single inheritance, only one child class, one parent class. Multi-level inheritance, here B in our example acting as child for A class, parent for C class. And hierarchical inheritance, class A is a parent, B and C are inheriting the properties of A. So two more inheritances. What are the C here? So when one class inherit multiple classes, it is known as multiple inheritance. See an example. See an example. Multiple classes. So here in our example, class C is a child class. It is inheriting the properties of A, properties of B. Not supported in Java. Not supported in Java. It is not supported in Java. Where I will show you with an example why Java does not support multiple inheritance. Now see the hybrid inheritance, the combination of 1, 2, 3, 4 also. So class A is acting as a parent, B and C are child, and class D acting as a child, B and C are acting as a parent. Hybrid inheritance, so combination of 1, 2, 3, 4. So important inheritance here is multiple inheritance, where Java does not support multiple inheritance. So through using interfaces, you can achieve multiple inheritance. I will show you with an example why. Where is a problem? Why Java does not support multiple inheritance? What is a class hierarchy? So a child class of one parent can be a parent of another child class. That is called as hierarchy. Like previous example, we saw about multi-level inheritance. So B is acting as a child for A. B is also acting as a parent for C. Like in hybrid inheritance also we see. So a child class of one parent can be a parent of another child class. So that is forming as a class hierarchy. So what is the syntax? What is the Java syntax of inheritance? Class, subclass name, extends superclass name. So here class, subclass name will be the child class name. Take an example XYZ, extends keyword, superclass name. Take an example, my superclass name will be AABC. So general format. Then statements, various methods as well as fields. So here the extends keyword plays an important role. So it will indicate that you are making a new class that will derive from the existing class. What is an existing class? ABC is an existing class. Assume that XYZ you are creating a new class. So extends is a keyword indicating that you are making a new class that will derive from an existing class. So meaning of existing is to increase the functionality. Increase the functionality, the child class. So the child class will be a specific version or a special or specific version of a parent class. So in the terminology of Java, a class which is inherited is called as parent class or superclass. And you are creating a new class, no? That new class is called as child class or subclass. So existing class is called as parent class. New class you are created by using the extend keyword is called as child class or subclass. Now, so I will explain with a small example diagram figure. See the diagram. Programmer is a subclass and employee is the superclass. See again the same employee, name of the class. It has one variable called float, salary, type is float, salary, and programmer. Programmer is a child class. It has its own variable called as bonus, int bonus. So there will be a kind of relationship. So the relationship between employee and programmer is what? Is a kind of relationship. So programmer is a employee. So it means that programmer is a type of employee. Employee is a programmer. No. Programmer is a employee. So it means that programmer is a type of an employee. So programmer is a type of an employee. So take a small example here. See a small example program and inheritance. Remember this diagram. Employee, salary, float. It has a one variable called float. It does not have any methods. Okay, according to the requirement. Here again the programmer and one variable called bonus int does not have any methods. Now see example program of inheritance. So class employee, I have only one variable called float salary. I given some value, some 40,000. Now, so class name is what? Employee. That is a parent name, parent class name. It has one variable called float salary. Now see, class, child class name. What is the child class name? Programmer. What is the child class name? Programmer. Extends employee. What is an employee? Parent class name. So extends before child class, extends after parent class. Whenever you will write this statement, so programmer will inherit the properties of employee class. What are the property? Salary are going to be inherited. And the programmer has variable called bonus. Bonus of type int. Some 10,000. The value is given. Now main method. I am creating an object of programmer, where P is the name of the object and new programmer. I am creating an object of programmer. Now see, because that are instance variables. So system.out.println, what is the programmer salary? So p dot salary, the salary variable belongs to parent class, but even though you are accessing with the child class object, because you are inherited the properties of employee class, you are inherited the properties of employee class. So what is the statement? Just system.out.println, I am taking the programmer salary or printing the programmer salary. P, what is a P here? Object of programmer dot salary. Then P dot bonus. What is bonus? Variable of child class. So I am child class also have a variable. Parent class also have variable. So extends means inheriting the properties. You are creating new class, that's programmer, with the existing one class employee. Then close the main method, close the class, and now the output. So the employee salary is programmer salary, bonus, it will print. So like this you can create. It's a single inheritance concept. There the programmer will be a child class, employee will be a parent class. Another example, like class, I have animal class, animal, eat, just a print statement, system.out.println eating, close. Only one method. I have a class called bird or dog, extends animal. So what is dog class here? Dog class is child class, animal class is parent class. So dog class is child class, animal class is parent class. Now, again, dog has its own property. What is the own property here? Its own member. What is the member? Method name is bark. System.out.println barking. Then now, I am creating an object, class, class name, test inheritance, name of the class. Then, as usual, main method, public static void main. Then I am creating an object of dog class, dog object creation, dog object name, that is user defined, new dog object dog as created. Now d dot bark, d dot eat. Now eat is method that is belongs to animal class. Bark is a method that is belongs to dog class. But you are used extends keyword. All the properties are inherited by the dog class, because animal will be the parent class, dog will be the child class. So I created an object of child class. I have called with an object name d dot bark, d dot eat. Then I am closing the method. Then see the output. Barking, because I called d dot bark, barking will be print. Then d dot eat, that's an eat statement, print statement, eating. So eating will be print. So like this, you can create n number of examples. But remember, there should be a easy kind of relationship. You can create new class with an existing one. So means you are inheriting the properties of parent class by using a keyword extends. Now, so the question arises, why Java does not support multiple inheritances? So single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, hybrid inheritance. Okay. What about multiple inheritance? So there's a question why multiple inheritance is not supported in Java. So if you want to reduce the code complexity and if you want to simplify the programming language, multiple inheritance is not supported in Java. Take an example. Why? We are telling that why Java does not support multiple inheritance. So with an example, with a real-time scenario, then you can know why Java does not support multiple inheritance. So consider a scenario where A, B and C are three classes. So assume that there will be a three classes. The name of the first class is A, the second class will be B and the third class will be C. And now the C class inherits A and B class, meaning that C will be the child class, and A and B are the parent classes. So if A and B classes have a same method name that you are called it from the child class object, so then there will be ambiguity to call that which particular method of A or B class. So I will show you an example program. So compile time errors are always better than the runtime errors. So the Java renders compile time errors if you inherit two classes. So whether you have a same method or different method, there will be a compile time error. What is this point actually? What is the point is? So assume that there are three classes A, B and C. So C is inheriting A and B classes. So if A class and as well as the B class has a same method name. Suppose an example, A class has a method called show, B class has a method called show. Then if you all call it from a child class object, you have created a child class object like C1 is equal to new C. So whenever you will say C1 dot show, which show method will be called? Because the show method there will be in A class, the show method will be there in B class. So which show method will be called? So there will be an ambiguity. So which method of A or B we need to call? So always compile time errors are better than runtime errors. See, there is an example program. See in an example program, I have a class called A. I have a class called A. Then I have a method called MSG. I written a user defined method message. It has one print statement hello. It has a one print statement hello. Consider another class called B. Consider another class called B. Class B. Now see, again I have a same method message. Then I have print statement. Then I have print statement. Now see, in our example, class C extends A and B. It is not valid actually. It is not valid because one class can extend only one class. One class can extend only one class. But in our example, we are extending two classes. Assume that is also valid. Assume that it also valid. Suppose if it is okay, just for a time sake, assume that if it is okay. Now see, I am creating an object of child class. I am creating an object of child class. C obj is equal to new C. Object creation. Object creation. Now see, obj dot message. Now which message method will be invoked? B method or A method? Ambiguity. Ambiguity. So multiple inheritance not supported in Java because after extends only one class is possible. But in our statement I have given two classes. If suppose it is valid, so assume that I am calling with an object name obj.msg. So which msg method will call? Which msg method called? Because message is there in B class, message is there in A class. Either I can go for print welcome or I can go to print hello. Then there will be ambiguity. This is the reason Java does not support multiple inheritance. So the point here is a class can extend only one class at a time. One class at a time. So there are certain kinds of member access rules. Who are the members of a class? Variables as well as the methods. So there are some member access rules we have to follow. Nothing but visibility modifiers. They are going to determine which class members are accessible and which class members cannot accessible. So visibility. Whom can see your variables? Whom can see your methods? Who can access your variables? Who can access your methods? That all depends upon the visibility mode. Member access rules. So members, nothing but what? Variables and as well as the methods. The variables and methods that are going to declared as a public visibility are accessible, and those with private visibility are not accessible. So when you declare as a public variable, that variable can be accessed anywhere. Suppose you declared method as a public, that method can be accessible by anyone in any package. But same, if you declared a variable as a private, that can be accessed within a same package, within a same class. Method as a private can be accessed within a same class, within a same package. So, problem. How to make a class or instance variables visible only to its subclasses? So I want to see only subclasses can access, or only subclasses can see my instance or class variables. The solution is that there is a third visibility. There will be a third visibility modifier that helps in inheritance. The solution is protected. So when you make your variables or make your methods as a public, as protected, then your subclasses can also visible your members. Nothing but your variables as well as methods. When you declare your members as a public, anybody can access. When you declare your members as a private, only visibility will be only within that. But if you want to make visibility of your variables or members, nothing but variables as well as methods, there will be a third visibility modifier. We can say third access modifier or a specifier that will help in an inheritance in that particular situation is protected. There is a third access modifier. So there are some visibility modifiers for a class or an interface. What are that? We will see private. They are the first visibility access specifier, or we can say access modifier. And when you declare your members as a private, and the access level of the private modifiers is only within that particular class. It cannot be accessed outside of the class. So that is, so little bit careful about when you are declaring your members as a private. The accessibility level of that particular private modifiers is only within that class. It cannot access from outside of the class. That is private. Then there will be another access modifier called default. So the accessibility level when you are declared your members as a default modifier, that should be only within your package. So outside the package, if you want to access your members, it is not possible. So it cannot be accessed from outside of the package. So if you do not specify any access level of your members, by defaultly it is default access modifier. So one is private. The accessibility level of private modifiers is only within the class. It cannot be accessed from outside of the class. When your access visibility or modifier is make it as a default, you can access only within a package. It cannot be accessed from outside of the package. So if you do not specify any access level, either private or default, by defaultly it will be default. By defaultly it will be default. Then now protected. So whenever you are specified your access level of protected modifier, that is within the package and outside of the package, but through with the subclasses, through with the child class. So if you do not make the child class, it cannot be accessed from outside of the package. So the third category is protected. So if you make your access level or protected modifier when you are used is within the package and outside of the package, but outside of the package through the child class. So if you do not make that child class, then it cannot be accessed outside of the package. So the final access modifier is public. Those the final access level is public modifier. So whenever you are specified your members as a public modifier, that can be accessed anywhere from within the class, outside the class, within a package, outside the package, anywhere you can use. So there will be a 4 access modifiers or specifiers: private, default, protected and as well as public. So when your accessible level, you used modifier as a public modifier, you can use anywhere. So it can be accessed anywhere, within a class, within a package, outside the package, outside the class. So to make your level as a private modifier, that can be used only within a class. So it cannot be accessed by outside of the class. So these are the visibility modifiers where you can use for class or in a interface. Then there are some special classes called as final class or a method. There is final keyword used in three purposes. So the final is a keyword in Java. If you want to restrict the user, then use a final keyword. So the final keyword can be used in various contexts. Three places. You can make your variable as a final variable. You can make your method as a final method. You can make your class as a final class. So the three contexts you can use your final keyword. So the final can be at variable level. The final can be at method level. A final can be at class level. So individually I will explain what is the use when you have declared your variable final, when method as a final, what will happen when your class as a final. Let's begin with a small example. See here, whenever you declare your keyword can be applied with the variables. A final variable that have a no value, it is called as blank fine variable or uninitialized final variable. Like an example, final int a. I declared variable a of type int is a type of final, but I didn't declare any value. So if you didn't declare any value that have a no value, if it is called as a blank fine variable or uninitialized final variable. It can be initialized in the constructors only, and the blank fine variable can be a static also, which will be initialized in the static blank only. So the blank final variable can be also a static. It can be also initialized in the constructor only. When you make it as a static, which will be initialized in the static block only. So in next slide, we will see what will happen when you make your variable as a final. See here, if you make your any variable as a final, you cannot change the value of final variable. Means throughout of the program, the value of that particular variable will be a constant. Now see, in an example program, I have a class called bike. I have a class called bike. It has a variable called speed limit of type int of type final. Now I given a initialized a value called 90. So throughout of a program, my speed limit will be 90 only. So I just written a method called run method, where now I am changing my speed limit from 90 to 400. Just I written a main method. I have created an object of bike class, bike obj object creation. This is bike obj is equal to new bike. Now I am calling the method run method with an object name obj.run. So when you say obj.run, it will go inside speed limit. What is actually the speed limit? It is a final. The value is what? 90, but you are changing the value from 90 to 400. It is not possible. So output is what? It will throw compile time error. It will throw compile time error. So there is a final variable of speed limit. Now we are going to change the value of that final variable. It cannot be changed because final variable, once you will assign, that value never changed. That value never be changed. And once you fixed, that value will be a final variable. That value will be fixed. It cannot be changed. So that is the first use of Java final variable. Now see the second usage of Java final at method level. So if you make any method as a final method, that method cannot be override. Cannot be override. Take another same example. I have a class called bike. Then I have a method called run method. Now in this time, I made that my method as a final method. Made that my method as a final method. Then some print statement, system.out.println. Now see here, class Honda, name of the class, extends bike. So the bike may be Honda is a bike. Honda is a bike. Is a relationship. Inheritance is a relationship. Now run method. Same run method I have used. Then print statement. Main method. I am creating an object of Honda class. Honda. Name of the object is again Honda is equal to new Honda. Now when I say object name dot run. Object name dot run. So which run method? This run method. What you have made that? That run method will be a final method. When you make your method as a final, the method cannot be overridden. That method cannot be overridden. So what is an output? Compile time error. So make sure that when you are using final methods, you cannot override. You cannot override. The second usage of final method. Third usage and the final usage of final keyword is final keyword at class level. So if you make any class as a final class, inheritance is not possible. Means that you cannot extend it. Means that you cannot create new class. You cannot create child class. Take an example. Final class bike. Now see, I made that my bike class will be a final class. So when you declare your final class, the remaining statements are waste. Now see, class, name of the class, child class, extends bike. Here bike is what? Parent class. Honda one is what? Child class. So I have written one method called run method. Just I written one statement. Print statement. Main method. I have created an object of Honda class. Then I said Honda dot run. Honda dot run. So it is extending by class. By class is final class. So it will throw an error compile time saying that you cannot extend it. This statement only will throw an error. Remaining statements are useless. So Java final keyword at variable level. Once you declare your variable as a final, you cannot change the value. If you make the method as a final method, that method cannot be overridden. You make that your class as a final method, you cannot extend that particular class. So inheritance is not possible. So these are the three uses of final keyword. So final at variable level, final at method level, final at class level. So if you make that, we'll throw an compile time error. So the final questions, what is inheritance? So different types of inheritances. With an example program, we have 5 types. So what is the use of final keyword or where you will use at variable level, method level as well as at class level, and with an explain with an SR examples. And the important question is why multiple inheritance is not supported in Java. So with an example, you can explain why Java does not support multiple inheritance. So this is related about the inheritance and about the final classes and methods. Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.